It was the third time I found a fortune cookie slip in my jacket pocket, and I hadn't eaten Chinese food in over a month. The last one read, "A new journey awaits you," which would have been cute if it weren't printed on a crumpled scrap that smelled like her vanilla body spray. When I asked her about it, she said she had no idea, must have been an old one, maybe got mixed in during laundry. Sure. Because all women absent-mindedly stuff fortune cookie slips into their husbands' jackets while simultaneously scenting them with perfume only they wear. That night, as I stood in the kitchen rinsing my hands after tossing out the trash, I noticed her phone buzzing on the counter. Odd, because she never left that thing unattended, not even when she showered. It wasn't the phone call or the contact name that caught my attention. It was the message preview underneath. Same words, different man. Huh? Didn't think I'd find out. I didn't touch the phone. Didn't need to. Just stared at it as my brain split the moment in half. There she was, in the living room, humming softly as she folded laundry, perfectly at ease, while a digital wrecking ball swung straight through the illusion of our life together. Calm as a surgeon, I wiped my hands on a towel and walked past her like nothing was wrong. The devil doesn't panic when he sees hell. He builds a throne. I didn't ask questions, didn't confront her, didn't even blink. The message told me everything I needed to know. Someone else, another man, was ahead of me in the queue of betrayal, already unraveling her lies like a spool of barbed wire. And for the first time, I wasn't the one being lied to. I was the observer, the collector, the archivist. That night, while she slept curled on her side like she hadn't been rehearsing sweet nothings to multiple men in rotation, I sat in the dark with a glass of bourbon and scrolled through our shared cloud storage. Not many people know this, but when you sync your iMessages across Apple devices and someone forgets to turn that off, it turns into a goldmine of shame. That's how I found them, the texts. Line after line of romantic, overly saccharine garbage that she had clearly copied and pasted to not one, not two, but three different men. The same emojis. The same typos. The same exact sentence. No one has ever made me feel so seen. I copied them all. Created a spreadsheet. Every line, every date, every man color-coded for reference. I knew their names from the messages, but it was one in particular, Evan, who intrigued me. He was the one who sent the message I saw on her phone. The one who was already starting to question her. That made him useful. I didn't reach out directly, no. That would be too obvious. I created a new Instagram under a burner name and started liking his posts. Slid into his DMs with vague familiarity. Hey man, you probably don't know me, but I think we've been talking to the same woman. He bit. Oh, he bit hard. Turns out, he'd started dating her 6 months ago. She told him I was her abusive ex-husband who wouldn't leave her alone. Funny, considering she still slept in my bed and used my credit card to buy lingerie. So I sent him a file. No threats, no insults, just a neatly organized PDF with screenshots of her messages. Each one watermarked with timestamps and cropped to show her contact name at the top. One message in particular stood out to him. She had told him, "I've never trusted anyone the way I trust you." Same line, same punctuation, sent to me 3 years ago, and again to another guy named Marcus just 2 weeks earlier. Evan didn't respond immediately. For a whole day, he went silent. But I saw when he blocked her on everything. Saw her mood change, how she stared at her phone more than usual, got agitated over nothing, picked fights about laundry detergent and trash bags. The tide was shifting, and she didn't even know it yet. I watched her unravel, strand by strand, while I played the devoted husband. By the end of that week, she got drunk and cried into her pillow at 2 a.m., whispering, "Why do they all leave?" I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny, but because she thought she still had control. She had no idea I'd set the dominoes. No idea that the next man would walk too. And the next. Until the only person left lying beside her was her own reflection. For a while, everything looked perfect from the outside. We were the couple people envied, joint vacations twice a year, couples brunch on Sundays, a dog with its own Instagram account. I handled the bills, kept the house in shape, made sure she never had to pump her own gas or worry about the tires. She called me her rock, her home, her forever person. I believed her. I really did. Maybe I even needed to believe her, because the truth was quieter than a scream, more like a slow suffocation under a silk pillow. It started when she got that new job, just part-time, she said, something to shake things up. But soon it was all she talked about. New people, new ideas, new routines. I noticed the change when she began dressing differently, not just better, but bolder. Heels for a job that didn't require them. Red lipstick she never used to wear. I complimented her, told her she looked stunning. She smiled, but there was a delay, like the compliment had to travel through layers of static before it reached her. Then came the vocabulary shift. Suddenly everything was about self-care, energy protection, boundary enforcement. One night, I reached for her hand on the couch, and she gently moved it away, saying she was working on reclaiming her physical autonomy. That word, autonomy, hit me like ice water. We were married, for God's sake. We used to share everything, but now I couldn't even touch her fingers without a disclaimer. She started going for walks at strange hours. Just clearing my head, she'd say, breezing out the door in yoga pants and a hoodie, her phone clutched tight like a lifeline. The dog stopped going with her, which struck me as odd, considering how much she used to love those walks with him. Once, I offered to join. Her reaction was immediate, defensive. Can I not have one thing that's just mine? Like I was invading enemy territory. That night, I stayed up and watched her location on Find My iPhone. She paused for 45 minutes near the industrial park. Said later she went to a late-night juice bar she'd heard about from a coworker. No receipt, of course. No juice. Just silence and an extra-long shower that reeked of unfamiliar cologne masked under vanilla shampoo. Then there were the purchases. At first, they were small new skincare products, aromatherapy diffusers, books about healing your inner child. Then the box from Saks Fifth Avenue showed up, and she claimed it was a gift to herself for personal progress. It was a silk nightgown, black, laced, and in a size too small for comfort. I never saw her wear it. Not once. Not for me. Around the same time, her phone habit shifted. She used to scroll with reckless openness. Now she angled the screen away, changed her passcode, started putting her phone face down like she was guarding nuclear launch codes. She turned off read receipts. Disabled the shared calendar. Her Instagram vanished from my feed. I'm just detoxing from digital comparison culture, she said, as if that explained why I couldn't even view the woman I shared a mortgage with. One night, I checked the car. I don't know why. I guess part of me hoped I wouldn't find anything. But there it was, a Starbucks cup with a name scribbled on it, Evan, in her handwriting, not a barista's. Under the seat, a scarf I didn't recognize, faintly perfumed and slightly damp, like it had been removed in a hurry and forgotten. Still, I didn't say anything. I told myself this was just a phase, maybe burnout. Maybe she was figuring things out. I made her favorite dinner. She ate 2 bites, then said she was too tired. I tried to plan a weekend getaway. She said she couldn't take the time off, too much pressure at work, too many deadlines. But her browser history showed a hotel search for a different city, one we'd never visited, for the exact same weekend I'd picked. When I asked her how work was going, she gave vague answers, like someone reciting lines from a script she didn't believe anymore. But she still smiled. That's what killed me the most. She still smiled, touched my arm occasionally, asked about my day. Only now, when she laughed, her eyes didn't meet mine. Her gaze lingered elsewhere, often some distance where I didn't exist. The intimacy had become hollow, a choreographed routine she performed out of obligation, like a flight attendant offering peanuts to a man who didn't know the plane was going down. I wanted to believe we could fix it, that I could hold us together with enough patience, enough love, enough faith. But the cracks were there, hairline fractures running through the illusion of our perfect life. I just hadn't yet seen how deep they went, or how sharp the edges could get when they finally broke open. It happened on a Wednesday, nothing dramatic, just a midweek evening with dishes in the sink and background noise from a reality show she liked to leave running for ambience. She was in the bedroom, folding laundry with the door ajar, humming to herself like the woman in those detergent commercials. I was walking past the room when her iPad lit up on the nightstand. The screen faced the hallway, an accident, probably. A message popped up, bright against the dark wallpaper. It read, "Missed last night already. You tasted like sin." I didn't flinch, didn't move a muscle. My eyes just absorbed it, memorized the sender's name, Evan Fire. Her little emoji touch, so predictable it made me want to laugh. She kept humming, completely unaware. I stood there long enough for the screen to fade back to black. Then I turned, walked down the hall, and closed the door to my office gently behind me. My hands weren't shaking. My pulse didn't spike. If anything, there was a stillness inside me that I'd never felt before. A total clarity. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and logged into our shared cloud again, not to check, not to confirm, but to gather. This wasn't about doubt anymore. This was inventory. Evidence. Surgical precision. I pulled up her messages, then cross-checked her calendar, her browser history, her Uber receipts. She had taken a ride to an address on the edge of town 2 nights ago, said she was at a late client dinner, and came home smelling like some artificial citrus body mist that didn't match her own perfume. The address? A residential duplex with a converted garage, according to Google Street View. I searched the name Evan in her texts, in her emails, even in the Notes app. Found one that said, "Don't forget to bring the candle. He thinks I'm at yoga." That one hit harder than the others. Not because of the lie. I was used to the lies by then. But because of the ease, the casualness, the complete lack of weight behind it. I thought about how I'd asked her if she wanted to do something together that night, and she smiled at me and said, "I need to reconnect with my body." Said it with the same voice she used when she told the dog she loved him. I scrolled back through her photos and found one I hadn't seen before, taken in our bathroom, but cropped at the neck, showing only her body in lingerie I never bought, holding a phone with a visible reflection in the mirror. Not mine. Not hers. A man's hand. I studied the photo for a long time. Not because I needed more proof, but because I wanted to memorize this feeling. The exact moment something dies inside you, and you don't mourn it, you dissect it. I didn't feel pain. I felt design. Like gears clicking into place. She thought I'd never find out. She thought she was orchestrating a beautiful little symphony of self-liberation, personal empowerment, all those buzzwords she picked up from half-baked podcasts and Instagram therapists. But she wasn't evolving. She was detonating. Slowly, methodically, without a single shred of remorse. And now, I was awake. No more defending her in my mind. No more giving her the benefit of the doubt. No more trying to rationalize the distance. That night, I lay beside her in bed while she slept. Her breathing was slow, steady, innocent. I stared at the ceiling and thought about all the times she told me I was the only one who ever really understood her. She said that exact line to Evan 3 days ago, right before she sent him a voice note moaning his name. I know because I listened to it. All 41 seconds. Not because I wanted to, but because this was reconnaissance now. I wasn't a husband anymore. I was a tactician. She rolled over at one point and curled into my side like she used to. I didn't move. Didn't pull away. Just let her think she was still safe. That the fortress she'd built out of deceit was still standing. But inside, I had already set the charges. The countdown had begun. And when it all came down, she wouldn't even know what hit her. She still thought she had the upper hand, still moved through the house like a woman spinning her little webs unnoticed, not realizing the air around her was already filled with smoke and mirrors of my own design. I didn't confront her when she said she was going to dinner with a coworker whose name she conveniently couldn't remember. I just nodded, smiled, and later checked the reservation history of our shared OpenTable account, which she'd forgotten to unlink from her phone. There was a dinner booked, yes, but not for one person, and not in the city she claimed. She had gone 2 towns over, to a place neither of us had ever been, under a name that wasn't hers. I didn't drive there. I didn't follow. I did something better. I sent flowers to her office that same night, a simple bouquet with a note that read, "Proud of you. Hope your presentation goes well." She came home late, hair freshly brushed, lips faintly stained, said the client meeting had gone long, no time to check messages. She never thanked me for the flowers. Because she never got them. Because she wasn't at the office at all. I waited a week and called the front desk of her company, posing as a delivery service following up on a return package. She wasn't in that day, the receptionist said casually. I think she had a personal day or something. That was all I needed. I began collecting digital footprints, Uber receipts, location history, timestamps on shared apps. She was careless with her tech, confident in the illusion of my ignorance. I changed nothing on her phone, just mirrored it silently to an old iPad I kept in the garage. Every text, every swipe, every search came to me in real time. I watched her schedule fake therapy sessions. Watched her cancel them 5 minutes later. Watched her message Evan Fire, saying, "I told him I'm working through trauma." He totally bought it. Trauma. That was her new cover story. I didn't even know which version of me she was describing to him. The monster, the idiot, the poor sap clinging to a dead marriage. I let her keep building the fantasy. In fact, I fed it. Encouraged her self-work. Gave her space. Asked supportive questions. Always careful to appear passive, clueless, patient. I became invisible in my own home, a ghost with a notebook, logging everything. I started small, testing her. One night, I asked if she wanted to visit her mother next weekend. She blinked once, twice, and said she'd already made plans with friends from college. Girls' retreat, she said. Just us, no phones. I knew that was a lie. She hadn't spoken to her college friends in months, and one of them, Sarah, was married to a guy I used to golf with. So I reached out. Casual. No urgency. Just, hey, is Kate joining you for that getaway? Sarah replied, getaway? I screenshotted that too. Every contradiction, every slip, every fabricated tale went into a digital dossier, one she had no idea existed. Her lies were so consistent they bordered on artistry, but even art has fingerprints. She started locking her phone in the bathroom cabinet during showers. So I hid a voice-activated recorder behind the towel rack. Most of the time, I got nothing but steam and her humming. But one night, she answered a call. I listened to her whisper, he's still so sweet. I feel awful. But we're so different now. He doesn't excite me anymore. I saved that one. Labeled the file, justification. I knew her rhythms, her routines. Knew she always left her purse by the couch before showering, keys inside, unguarded. I took one of her spare car keys, quietly, methodically, made a copy, and returned it before she noticed. Then I tracked her with her own vehicle. I never followed her physically. Instead, I placed an AirTag inside the lining of the trunk, beneath the fabric. I watched her lie about yoga while her car idled for an hour outside a residential apartment on Crosswood Lane. Same place. Twice. 3 times. Different nights. Every time, she came home smelling like peppermint gum and somebody else's sweat. I told her she smelled amazing. She said, it's a new essential oil blend. Want to try? I smiled. Sure. Because at that point, I wasn't angry. I was studying her like a biologist studies a specimen, through glass, with gloves, without sympathy. I laid traps. I asked about her day in ways that referenced false details, events I knew never happened. She nodded, built new lies on top of them without blinking. I once told her, that co-worker of yours, Jared, right? The one who helped with the grant. There was no Jared. But she replied, yeah, Jared's great. He totally saved my ass this quarter. That's when I knew it wasn't just deception. It was sport. She got off on it. She believed in her performance more than she believed in me. But I let her keep playing, because every actor eventually forgets they're on stage when the audience is too quiet. And I had become silent as death. She thought she was living a double life. But she was just starring in a one-man show. And I was already writing the final scene. I invited her to dinner at the same rooftop restaurant where I proposed to her 7 years ago. Dim lights, skyline view, jazz playing softly, the whole illusion of romance stitched together like a burial shroud. She wore the same dress she wore back then, the one she said made her feel dangerously elegant. And I let her think this night was about healing, reconnection, a fresh start after her so-called personal growth phase. I smiled across the table, ordered her favorite wine, even complimented her new earrings. Evan's taste, clearly, not mine. She basked in the attention, played her part like a woman who still believed she could lie her way through love if she just kept the tempo. Midway through the entree, I excused myself to the restroom. But I didn't go. Instead, I walked over to the event coordinator I'd quietly arranged this night with and gave a simple nod. As I returned to my seat, the jazz faded out and the screen behind the bar flickered to life. At first, it was just a few candid photos, her sitting in a parked car with Evan, hand on his chest, laughing like a teenager drunk on cheap rebellion. She froze. Her fork paused midair. Then came the video, her in our bedroom, same sheets we still slept on, same body she still pressed against mine at night. Only this time it was Evan behind her, not me. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes darted to mine. What is this? She whispered, a tremble buried beneath the indignation. Not what it looks like, she said automatically, the first line in a play I already knew by heart. I tilted my head, calm, unreadable. It looks like you're doing your best work on camera. She reached for my hand across the table, and I pulled mine away before she touched me. We were just talking that night, she stammered, voice rising. You must have edited that. It's not real. I chuckled once, cold, humorless. You talk with your hips now? She bristled, tried to pivot. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I didn't plan for it to go that far. I leaned forward slightly. You planned enough to move your wedding ring to your right hand in every shot. That shut her up. Her breath hitched. She tried again, desperate now. You were never around. Always so emotionally unavailable. I felt alone in this marriage. I kept my voice low. Controlled. Funny, you never felt too alone to keep using my credit card. Or too neglected to wear the jewelry I gave you while screwing him in our house. Her face twisted, mask slipping. You know what? Maybe he gave me something you never could passion. At least he listened. At least he made me feel alive. She said it with that mock confidence I'd seen her use on waiters, baristas, people she thought beneath her. But this wasn't a cafe, and I wasn't taking her order. I leaned back in my chair, stared at her like I was looking through glass. You weren't looking for passion. You were looking for a mirror. Someone who only saw what you showed him. Someone too new to know you're hollow. Her mouth opened like she had something venomous to spit back, but nothing came out. She blinked rapidly, fingers twitching over her napkin. You set this up. You embarrassed me on purpose. She was getting smaller now, shrinking behind the facade that was beginning to crack at the edges. No, I said. I gave you the stage. You did the rest. All I did was give the audience a seat. For a moment, there was silence, just the sound of cutlery clinking softly on plates in the background as a few nearby diners whispered and glanced over. She wasn't crying yet. She was still in the space between fury and collapse, where pride keeps the floodgates closed just long enough to avoid total humiliation. Her eyes scanned the room, looking for a place to run. I didn't move. I wanted her to sit with it, to feel the weight of the truth now that the lies had been stripped away. Every bit of control she thought she had was gone, exposed, turned into spectacle. She reached for her purse, then hesitated, unsure whether to stay or flee. I didn't make it easy for her. I didn't offer an exit line, didn't yell, didn't storm out. I just watched her, let the moment stretch long and heavy like a held breath. She looked at me like she didn't recognize the man sitting across from her anymore. She was right. That man was gone. The man across from her now? He was the reckoning. She followed me out of the restaurant, her heels clacking on the pavement like a storm trying to catch up with a man who had already walked through the rain and come out dry. So that's it, she shouted, her voice slicing through the night. You humiliate me in public and then just walk away? I didn't answer. I kept walking toward the car, calm, deliberate, like I was strolling out of a movie I'd already seen the ending to. She caught up, grabbed my arm, spun me around. Say something, damn it. Her eyes were wild now, no longer controlled, no longer charming. You smothered me, she snapped, voice cracking. You acted like some perfect little husband, like I should be grateful to be your wife. I tilted my head, studied her like a failed experiment. You should have been, I said, voice low and level. She scoffed, took a step back. You were boring. You never did anything spontaneous. You never challenged me. I nodded slowly, as if considering her words. You mean I didn't make you feel like a teenager again? That's what you wanted. A reset button. Someone who didn't know how many times you lie to yourself every day. Her mouth twisted into something bitter. This wouldn't have happened if you were a real man, she hissed, fire behind her eyes, hoping to draw blood. But I didn't flinch. I just looked at her and said, a real man doesn't need to beg to be chosen. That one landed. I saw it in the way her shoulders tensed, the way her hands curled into fists at her sides. You think you're so righteous, don't you? She spat. Like you're better than me just because you kept your dick in your pants? I let the silence breathe for a beat before replying. No, I said. I'm better because I didn't need to lie to feel alive. She laughed a harsh, hollow. You're not even angry. You don't even care. What? Was this whole thing just a game to you? Her voice wavered now, the edges fraying. Are you even human? I looked her dead in the eyes and replied, I stopped being your human the moment you started practicing your moans for someone else. She blinked, stunned by the precision of it. Her mask slipped further. You don't understand how lonely it was. She tried again, softer now, more delicate. I needed to feel something. I needed to find myself again. I smiled faintly. You weren't finding yourself. You were running from the version of you that couldn't handle being seen. She opened her mouth to fire back, but the words caught in her throat. Her bravado was draining fast now, replaced by something desperate, something that looked like fear. So what? You're just done, she said, voice trembling. That's it. After everything? I shrugged. You ended it. I'm just letting the credits roll. She stepped closer, eyes wide now, pleading. You don't mean that. You love me. You always said I was your everything. I met her gaze, unflinching. And you proved that everything meant nothing. The words hit like a slab of concrete. She staggered back a step, caught herself on the car hood. Please, she said. We can fix this. We can go to therapy. We can. You broke something that doesn't get fixed, I said. And the worst part is, you didn't do it by accident. You did it because you wanted to watch it fall. Her hands trembled now, her face pale under the parking lot lights. I didn't think you'd find out, she whispered. I didn't think it would go that far. I nodded once. That's the only honest thing you've said all night. She shook her head, tears finally gathering in the corners of her eyes. Say something. Yell. Hit something. Just don't walk away like none of this mattered. I stepped back, opened the car door, and paused. It mattered, I said. It mattered right up until you decided I wasn't enough. And now? I looked at her one last time, calm and absolute. Now I'm just done pretending you're someone worth saving. I got in the car, shut the door, and left her standing there, alone, unraveling, nothing left but her reflection in the rearview mirror shrinking smaller with every second. The morning after that rooftop scene, I woke up before the sun and began assembling the kind of plan that doesn't scream revenge, it hums with inevitability. I didn't touch her, didn't message her, didn't respond to the pathetic, late-night string of texts she sent while sitting alone in the parking lot. Instead, I made coffee, opened my laptop, and began sorting the files, evidence, timelines, call logs, screenshots, audio recordings, cloud backups. It was all there. Each folder labeled, dated, timestamped. A clean digital weapon. Then I took inventory of the tangible, joint accounts, shared property, vehicles, subscriptions, insurance policies, utility bills, everything we blended in the name of marriage. By noon, I had a full operational playbook. I started by freezing the credit cards she used, ones tied to my accounts. I left hers untouched. Let her wonder why every transaction suddenly declined, one after the other, like dominoes falling under her fingertips. Then I transferred half of our joint savings to a separate account under my name, perfectly legal and within my rights, considering I contributed nearly 80% of the deposits. I disabled her access to the investment portfolios, changed the passwords on all streaming services, online shopping platforms, and even the thermostat, because control, when executed correctly, must reach every corner of her reality. That same afternoon, I visited my lawyer quietly, without announcement. We had already been preparing, just in case, but now I gave him everything. Every shred of evidence. Every file. Every damn lie she ever told, in chronological order, with proof. He nodded, impressed, said, "This will be surgical." I nodded back. That's the goal. We filed for divorce under irreconcilable differences, but we attached an appendix of her infidelity, discreetly, respectfully, yet unignorably. Because I didn't want drama in court. I wanted leverage. And then came the harder part, the social unraveling. I didn't scream. I didn't post. I composed a single, calm message. Hey, you deserve to know who she really is. No drama. Just facts. Attached to each message was a private link to a secured folder containing screenshots and evidence, sent only to select people. Her parents. Her brother. Her two closest friends. Her manager. All of them received the truth in silence. No commentary. No bitterness. Just reality. Some replied with stunned disbelief. Others didn't say anything at all. I didn't need their reactions, I just needed them to know. I gave them the burden of knowledge she could never unspill. I also called the dealership. Her car was in my name, bought with my credit, and I'd been paying the insurance. I arranged for repossession by the end of the week. Gave the rep a heads up, she might scream. He chuckled. We're used to that. I canceled her gym membership, linked to my card. Took her off the health insurance plan. Shut down the shared cloud drive. Reset every password. Deleted her fingerprints from all devices. The house? Still mine. Bought it before we married, in my name only. She'd always said that didn't matter. Turns out, it mattered a lot. I called a locksmith and had the locks changed while she was still at work. When she came home and her key didn't work, she called me 20 times. Left voicemails dripping with confusion, anger, desperation. I didn't answer a single one. I didn't need to. I had already mailed her a formal notice. She had 3 days to collect her belongings, supervised. Anything after that would be considered abandoned. She tried contacting mutual friends, spinning a sob story about betrayal and misunderstanding. Most of them didn't respond. A few forwarded her messages to me, with a simple, "Thought you should see this." Her attempts to regain control were frantic, sloppy, and completely ineffective. She still thought she could manipulate the narrative. She didn't realize I had already rewritten it. Her boss? I didn't accuse. I simply sent a concise, professional message. This is not a complaint, only awareness. Your employee is conducting an ongoing relationship with a married man, with documentation proving she has falsified work hours for personal meetings. No further comment. I let HR handle it from there. And they did, swiftly. She wasn't fired, But her role was reviewed. Her hours were cut. Her remote access privileges were revoked. Her climb up the corporate ladder suddenly hit a trapdoor. Through it all, I never raised my voice. Never called her names. Never sent a single emotional text. I became the one thing she could never control, silence with intent. She tried reaching out once more, this time with a pitiful apology, dripping with false remorse. I didn't respond. I just archived it into the same folder as everything else. The plan wasn't revenge by fire, it was erosion. Bit by bit, I took back everything she had poisoned. Her world didn't explode in a single blast. It crumbled, silently, strategically, until there was nothing left for her to hold on to but regret. And by then, I was already gone. The fundraiser was her idea. Months ago, an elegant black tie affair for her company's community outreach program, hosted in a glass-walled rooftop venue downtown, filled with wine glasses, string quartets, and people she desperately wanted to impress. I knew the date as soon as she added it to the shared calendar months earlier, back when she still pretended our lives were intertwined. I never removed it, never commented, just marked it, waited. When the day arrived, she sent a short, almost casual message. You can still come if you want. Like it was a favor. Like she was giving me crumbs off a table she had already set for someone else. I accepted, politely, and showed up exactly on time, dressed sharp, calm, the kind of composed that makes people straighten their backs when you enter a room. She was already there, glowing in a navy blue gown, surrounded by colleagues and old friends, playing the charming host. Her smile flickered for just a moment when she saw me, tight at the edges, but she quickly replaced it with the rehearsed warmth she reserved for social photos. I greeted her with a kiss on the cheek, as if none of it mattered, as if I hadn't already pulled the floor out from under her entire life. The first hit came in whispers. One of her coworkers, a younger woman who had always looked up to her, approached, holding her phone awkwardly, avoiding eye contact. "Is it true?" she asked, barely above a whisper. My wife blinked. "Is what true?" The woman hesitated, then quietly showed her the screen, one of the screenshots. Her face dropped for a fraction of a second before she composed herself, fake laughed, and said something about photoshopped garbage before quickly walking away. The second hit came 10 minutes later, when her best friend Olivia arrived, late, looking visibly uncomfortable. They hugged stiffly. Olivia didn't stay long. She walked over to me, handed me a sealed envelope, and whispered, "She used me too." I didn't know. Then she left. My wife stood there, helpless, watching Olivia disappear down the elevator. The third hit landed hard. Her parents arrived, dressed up, proud, oblivious, until her father was pulled aside by one of the board members. I watched his face fall as he was handed a small manila folder. He opened it right there at the refreshment table. Read. Closed it slowly. Walked over to her with her mother close behind. No hugs. No smiles. Just a short exchange of words I couldn't hear over the music. Her mother's face went from confused to furious. Her father? He just looked tired. Disappointed in that quiet way that doesn't need volume. They didn't stay for dinner. As they left, her father looked past her and locked eyes with me. He gave the slightest nod. The fourth hit came mid-speech. She was halfway through her address to the audience, thanking donors, talking about integrity and community values, her voice just a little too high, her hands trembling slightly. Then someone in the back coughed, not loudly, but distinctly. Several phones lit up. Someone gasped. On every screen was a video. The video. Her, in our bedroom. Her, whispering to Evan, asking him if he thought she looked hotter in my shirts. Her, laughing about how easy it was to play both sides. She paused mid-sentence. She stammered. That's fake. Her voice cracked. That's been edited. This is harassment. No one responded. They just watched. The air turned to ice. The crowd, previously charmed and smiling, stood frozen in uncomfortable silence. She looked around for support, but none came. She made one last attempt, her voice rising, cracking. Whoever did this is character assassination. This is a crime. Still, nothing. And then her final blow landed. Evan arrived. Late, uninvited, summoned only by the same folder I'd delivered to his inbox earlier that day. He didn't say a word, just walked up to her, looked her dead in the eyes, and said, "You told me you were divorced." Then he turned and left. No drama, just finality. That was the moment it happened, the collapse. Her chest rose and fell too quickly. Her mascara ran. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked down at her notes, her dress, her empty champagne glass. She looked around at all the people she had worked so hard to impress, to manipulate, to keep in her orbit. And she realized they weren't looking at her like a woman wronged. They were looking at her like a car wreck they couldn't turn away from. Her mask slipped, shattered, and underneath was something raw and desperate. Then her eyes found me. Across the room, still. Silent. Watching. She tried to hold my gaze, maybe expecting a final scolding, a rescue, some indication that I still cared. But I didn't blink. I didn't move. I just watched her burn in the house she built herself. And she knew it. That was the real destruction, not the evidence, not the whispers, not the scandal. It was that I had stayed long enough to watch her realize I was never coming back. It happened 2 days after the fundraiser, at her parents' house, where she'd summoned everyone under the thin excuse of explaining her side. She stood in their living room, still trying to play the misunderstood heroine, with her makeup done like she hadn't spent the last 48 hours spiraling. Her mother sat stiffly on the edge of the sofa, eyes cold and unreadable. Her father leaned against the wall with arms folded, jaw clenched so tight you could see the veins in his neck. I almost didn't show. Almost. But then I saw the guest list, her brother, her best friend Olivia, 2 co-workers she'd dragged into this drama, and, of course, Evan, who looked like he had just been tricked into walking into a funeral dressed for a date. "I just want everyone to hear the truth from me," she said, voice trembling like she still thought she could control the damage. "There's been a lot of exaggeration. Misinterpretation." I stood in the back, near the sliding glass door, silent until she said, "None of this would have happened if he hadn't made me feel so small." That's when I stepped forward. "Small?" I repeated, loud enough to cut the air like a blade. "You weren't small. You were greedy. There's a difference." She turned to face me, red already creeping into her cheeks. "I was lonely," she snapped. "You never touched me. You never saw me." I took a step closer, not aggressive, just commanding. "No. I saw you. I saw everything. I saw the woman who smiled at me at dinner, then went to bed texting another man under my roof. I saw the woman who cried about trauma while scheduling hotel meetups. Don't pretend you were invisible. You just weren't satisfied being seen for what you actually are." Her voice rose, shrill, defensive. "I was suffocating in this marriage. You made me feel like a prisoner in my own home." Her father shifted uncomfortably. "A prisoner?" I echoed. "You had freedom, love, money, comfort. You had a man who built a life around you and made space for your insecurities like they were sacred. And what did you do with that space? You filled it with lies." Olivia stepped forward then, biting her lip. "She told me you were abusive," she said softly. "That she was scared of you." I looked her dead in the eyes. "And yet she slept next to me every night without a lock on the door." Funny kind of fear. There were gasps. Her mother looked like she wanted to crawl through the carpet. Evan opened his mouth like he wanted to speak, but all he managed was a soft, "She said you cheated first." That made me laugh. Not a happy laugh. A hollow, exhausted one. Of course she did. She has to burn someone else's house down to distract from the smoke in her own. Her voice cracked again. "You're turning everyone against me," she screamed. "You always needed control. You're a manipulator." I shook my head slowly. "No. I'm just finally holding up a mirror. You don't like what you see, so now you're calling it an attack." Her brother stood up then, stepping between us, trying to calm the chaos. "Maybe we should just all take a breath." "No," I cut in, voice sharper now. "She spent months dismantling our marriage one lie at a time. She made choices. And now she wants everyone to forget those choices because the consequences finally showed up in the room." She lunged at me then, not physically, but with words that were meant to draw blood. "You're not a man. You're an emotionless coward who can't keep a woman satisfied." I felt everyone freeze. And then I said, "That's rich coming from someone who had to steal someone else's man just to feel like she mattered." That was it. That line broke her. Her posture collapsed, hands shaking, face twisting into something almost unrecognizable. "You ruined me," she sobbed, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "You planned this. You wanted to humiliate me." I stared at her and delivered the final blow. "No. You did that all by yourself. I just stopped covering for you." Silence. Thick. Heavy. No one moved. Her father turned his back. Her mother got up and walked into the kitchen without a word. Evan slipped out the front door like he couldn't disappear fast enough. Her best friend turned her gaze away, disgust written all over her face. She stood in the center of that room, sobbing, trembling, undone in front of every person she once manipulated. And I? I turned, walked toward the door, opened it slowly, then paused and looked back. She met my eyes, desperate, broken. I didn't say another word. I didn't need to. Because there, in that moment, she realized the worst truth of all, that I no longer hated her. I simply didn't care. And that was the deepest wound I could have ever left behind. 3 months after the collapse, she was living in a one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of a neighboring city, paying rent on a place that smelled like bleach and old regrets. Working front desk at a wellness clinic that didn't bother to ask questions about her past. She no longer wore designer shoes or carefully coordinated outfits. Her hair was a mess of half-hearted ponytails and dry shampoo, and she looked smaller somehow, like her own shame had physically shrunk her. After the fundraiser fallout, her company had put her on administrative leave, while HR conducted an internal investigation, and though they called it temporary, she never got another call. The board decided her personal issues were too much of a liability. Her LinkedIn went silent. Her Instagram was nuked. And the friends she once confided in, the ones who cheered on her growth and self-care era, blocked her, ghosted her, vanished like smoke. Word spread faster than she could erase it. She tried to spin the story, of course, told a few people that I had manipulated her into madness, but no one believed it, not when the screenshots, audio clips, and unfiltered truth had already made their rounds. Her parents stopped taking her calls. Her mother sent a single message: "You lied to us." About him. About everything. Her father didn't say a word, just returned her old things in a cardboard box, left on the steps of her apartment like forgotten donations. Her brother unfollowed her. Her old colleagues removed her from group chats. She tried reaching out to Evan, begging him to reconsider, to talk like adults, to remember what they had. He didn't reply. He had changed his number and moved out of the duplex 2 weeks after the fallout, as if purging her memory was part of his healing process. And then she messaged me. It started with a long, tear-soaked wall of text about how she missed the way I looked at her, how no one had ever loved her like I did, how everything had gone so wrong but that she was willing to do the work now. She asked if I could meet for coffee, just to talk, just to understand. I left her on read. A week later, she showed up at my doorstep. She looked wrecked. Makeup smeared, eyes hollow, like she hadn't slept in days. She stood there in the rain, holding a water-damaged photo of us from our honeymoon, the edges curling like her last remaining pieces of dignity. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know I can't undo it, but I need you to know. I still love you." I didn't move, didn't let her in. Just stood in the doorway, arms crossed, gaze flat. She stepped forward, desperate, voice shaking. "I lost everything. My job, my family, my friends. I don't know who I am anymore without you." I looked at her then, not with hate, not with pity, just distance. Unreachable, unmoved. "That's not my problem anymore," I said. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, to cry, to beg. But the door closed before she could. I walked away without a single glance back, her sobs muffled by the rain hitting the concrete like clock ticks. That night, she sent one final message. "Please, even if you can't forgive me, don't forget me." And I replied, "Strange. I don't even remember your name anymore." That was the last time I heard from her. Whatever story she tells herself now is hers to sit with, but I know the truth, and more importantly, she does too. She reached for chaos and thought she could hold it without getting burned. Instead, she was consumed by it. Thank you for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to live through, but telling it, well, that was the final act of closure. I'm curious, where are you listening from? And did this one hit as hard as you expected?